Welcome back to Season 3, Episode 12 of the Voicebox. We just recently passed St. Patrick's Day, a festival that we know as a school holiday, but a holiday that we might not know why or how it is celebrated. In this short special episode, staff writer Crystal explains the history behind St. Patrick's Day, exploring how exactly the holiday has evolved across time and across different cultures. Stay tuned till the end and hope you enjoy.
Back when I was too young to know that ad blockers were apparently a thing that existed, I remember seeing this Party City ad where there was a lady dressed in all green and in an orange wig. She seemed like she was having a lot of fun. I mean, she was dancing and chatting with her friends who were also wearing green. I think that was my first impression of St. Patrick's Day. When I first saw the ad, I remember my tiny second grader self going like, I don't know, I probably didn't know what parties were, what beer was, and why the lady's green dress looked so tacky and cheap. But I didn't really question it either. I think back then, my second grade self kind of just accepted the ads as a questionable but valid way to celebrate that time of the year. Well, it just so happens that time of the year is now. Or at least it used to be now at the time of writing the script. Another year, another St. Patrick's Day. Another year of seeing green everywhere you go. Whether you're a little wee child making cardboard leprechaun booby traps, or if you're a not-so-wee adult tired of seeing the same color scheme in every store, everyone seems to recognize leprechauns, green, shamrocks, and gold as the universal symbols to St. Patrick's Day. But one day, while I was cram studying for my math test, I found myself not quite studying for my math test. I was zoning out. My mind took me back to that lady in green. Colors and motion flood my head. I found myself asking, what did St. Patrick's Day look like back then? If we were to go all the way back to the man, the myth, the legend, St. Patrick's himself, we'd be quick to realize that, well, his story is actually quite sad. When he was 14, Irish pirates kidnapped him from his home in Roman Britain and made him a slave for 4 years. Afterwards, the guy started to have some interesting visions about religion. He soon began spreading Christianity to his pagan friends and neighbors. St. Patrick famously compared the three-petaled shamrock to the Holy Trinity in Catholicism. Like all English elites at the time, he regularly wore blue clothing, which is why there is a shade called St. Patrick's Blue instead of, St. Patrick's Green, what I would have thought. But being immortal nonetheless, he eventually died in the 5th century BCE on, you guessed it, the 17th of March. So, March 17th became a day for the Irish to celebrate St. Patrick. Now, he became Ireland's national saint and apostle. In fact, St. Patrick's Day remained a private, religious day even until the 20th century. Now you may be guessing, if St. Patrick wore blue instead of green, why has green become the color for this holiday? Why isn't it blue? Turns out, there's this neat little song called The Wearing of the Green, and in the song, the singer describes the religious persecution Irish people faced for wearing green, which green pointed to the shamrock, the important Irish symbol. And eventually, people started interpreting wearing green not as in the shamrocks, but, well, literally wearing green all over. That is why people associate St. Patrick's Day with green. And that leads us to the question, how did this once so religious celebration change so much over time? And if you ask second grader me, she would have completely been shocked at the thought that only a few decades ago, there were no little people in green every March. Well, either that, or she wouldn't understand what you're saying at all. Well, to be fair, I was an interesting kid, aren't we all? Today, we know that both waves of Irish immigration to America had a significant influence on changing the holiday from a religious one to the one we celebrate today. In a nutshell, the first wave of Irish immigration was because of religious persecution. Irish Catholics found themselves unwelcome in English Protestant society. And because of this, a large percentage of Irish immigrants to America actually came from outside Ireland. Irish immigrants viewed America as a land of opportunities, freedoms of land and religion. They embarked on their journey here only to find colonial settlers not so welcoming towards them. Americans viewed them as strange foreigners with incomprehensible accents, therefore isolating them in this supposed land of the free. So, the Irish community banded together. Neighbors intermarried within communities, and they maintained a strong pride in their identity. Props to them. It's also during these colonial times where American history saw the largest St. Patrick's Parade. Funnily enough, these parades were held by Irish redcoats in celebration of their Catholic identity. But their peaceful show of pride was met with backlash. According to History.com, anti-Catholics, quote, erected effigies of Irishmen wearing rags and necklaces of potatoes with whiskey bottles in their hands, end quote. It's here where the earliest stereotypes of Irish folk as dirty and drunk started to appear in broader American culture. Flash forward to the second wave of Irish immigration to America. The year is 1845. This time, it wasn't religious persecution that caused this mass immigration, but instead, it was something else that you may have even heard of. It was the Great Famine, or also known as the Irish Potato Famine. And in layman's terms, potatoes went bad because of disease, but farmers continued to grow potatoes anyways, and this eventually caused Irish people to have nothing to eat, and another wave of Irish immigrants came to the United States to avoid literal starvation. Another fun fact, during the Irish Potato Famine, the Native American Choctaw tribe donated $170, or $5,000 in today's money, to help with the famine and displaced communities. And as a result, when Native American communities were hit the hardest during the COVID-19 pandemic, Irish volunteers mustered a sum of an estimated $1 to $2 million to aid their community's recovery. This forever sealed the really cool friendship between Irish people and Choctaw people. Flash forward to the 20th century. The Irish people continued to celebrate their pride of Irish origins. Parades that were originally for religious purposes gradually transformed to reflect Irish values as a whole. St. Patrick's Day became an Ireland national holiday in 1903, but still mostly involving of military parades officially celebrating Catholicism as more of a state-directed thing. Still, the Irish people celebrated their holidays by attending Mass in the mornings and none of the beer shipping that we see today. But that all changed around the 1960s when St. Patrick's Day became more entertainment-oriented instead of strictly religious. During the 60s, the holiday saw a lot more color, music, and, well, beer. Though it's arguable whether this association of St. Patrick's Day and Irish culture to beer is ultimately healthy in the long term for fighting against harmful stereotypes. Back in the States, Chicago came up with this weird idea of yeeting powder into its river to greenify it. But if we look at it from a closer perspective, it actually completely makes sense. Well, before, the Chicago River was extremely yucky and polluted. So, important bougie people decided to hold a meeting and decide on the pollution problem was too much to ignore. They needed to do something to make the green less ugly and less harmful. At first, the people threw fluorescent powder into the river in attempts of cleaning it up. But the problem was that the powder wasn't quite eco-friendly, and it dyed the entire river for a week straight when it technically wasn't supposed to. You can see where I'm going with the whole dyeing rivers green celebration thing. And after a while, people started to complain about eco-friendliness in the powder method, so the Chicago city people started to replace fluorescent powder with secretively formulated vegetable powder, which, funnily enough, is actually orange. Now, on every year in Chicago on March 17th, the Chicago River turns bright green, but not for mitigating pollution, but as a notion to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. Chicago has continued dyeing its river green for about 60 years. Traditions, whether old or new, all tell of the fascinating story behind St. Patrick's Day, and year after year, it has truly become one of the most memorable holidays in American society. Or, well, at least to second grader me. And now, Every St. Patrick's Day, we even see Irvington kids wearing green to school. Albeit they may not know the full diverse history behind the holiday, I think it's still really cool that we're doing these small gestures to celebrate St. Patrick's Day nonetheless.